Multiply, we have the square root of negative 7 times the square root of negative 2. When it comes to multiplying radicals, in order to multiply radicals, the radicands must be positive. And for this example, the radicands are not positive. Okay? So what we will have to do is simplify each of these radicals so we can make the radicands positive. Okay? So let's look at the square root of negative 7. Let's write it over here. The square root of negative 7, we're going to take out the negative 1 factor. And then we have square root of negative 1, which is I. And then the square root of 7, we can't do anything to that. So that would give us just the square root of 7. So we have I square root of 7 for the first factor. The square root of 21. First, take out the negative 1 factor. Do not, do not, do not. And I'm going to write this out here. Do not multiply the square root of 7 times square root of negative 7 times the square root of negative 1 first. Okay? And then you're saying the square root of positive 147. That is incorrect. Take out the negative 1 factor first. Okay? You only can multiply two radicals if, number one, your indices, your index are the same, and the radicands are positive. So taking out the negative 1 factor, then we have the square root of 21. Take the square root of negative 1, that is I, and then square root of 21, we can't do anything to this just yet. There are no perfect square factors in 21. So square root of negative 21 is I square root of 21. Then we're going to combine like factors, meaning I times I, and the square root of 7 times the square root of 21. Now that the radicands are positive, we can multiply those two radicals. So you have here the square root of 147. Now let's look at I times I. That's just like if we were multiplying x times x, that would give us x squared. Well, I times I gives us I squared. And remember, I'm going to put an asterisk up here. I said one of the two concepts I wanted you to learn was the square root of negative 1, and then also what is I squared equal to. And I squared is equal to negative 1. So here, where we see I squared, that becomes negative 1. And then let's simplify the square root of 147. You have 7 times 21, break down 21, 3, and 7. So then we have here 3 times 7 times 7. We have a pair of 7s, bring it on the outside, multiply it to the negative 1. Then our solution is negative 7 square root of 3. And there we go. Do not multiply radicals when the radicands are negative. Take out the negative 1 factor. And let's look at number 7 because that concept will hold as well. We cannot divide square roots when there is a negative number as the radicand. So for this numerator, we have negative square root of 77. Take out the negative 1 factor. So square root of negative 1 times the square root of 77. Now tell me what's the square root of negative 1, which is I. Now if we can simplify square root of 77, do so. If we can't, keep it under the radical sign. And for this example, we cannot simplify the square root of 77. There are no perfect square factors. So our numerator is I square root of 77 over square root of 7. Just visually think about, can we divide 7 into 77? Because I'm going to write this as one radical. And we can divide. So our answer is going to be I square root of 77 divided by 7, which gives us 11. There we go.